everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kristen, and if you're new here, this is a corner of the internet where I come at you every other week or so and share what I've been making. I do a lot of knitting, I do a lot of crochet, I do a lot of quilting. If you are multi-craftual, if you dabble in all the things, dive down all the crafty rabbit holes, you are in a good place. And to that I say, gather around, grab a cup of something, and let's get into things, because I've got some stuff to share with you. Not much progress on the knitting front, but I have been knitting, and I do have some progress to share with you on my Carillon shawl. And this is a wonderful pattern by Leila. Last name. Cannot remember the last name. I'll pop it in the down bar. Guys, if you are a stickler for getting names correct every time, this is not the channel for you. But I do try to correct myself in the show notes and everything. But anyway, it's a beautiful pattern. Highly recommend it if you are a fan of knitting brioche and lace. If you are new to knitting brioche and lace, maybe not the best beginner-friendly project, but I will say, once you get the gist of brioche and fall in love with lace, I mean, this is, look no further. This is a great pattern to scratch that itch. But it's a triangular shaped shawl with increases down the center spine and along the edges. And yeah, it just alternates between one color brioche up here, and then it switches over to double color, so two color brioche, and then it switches to this beautiful lace motif, and then, you know, back at it with the brioche, and then finally a nice matching lace border at the edge over here. So that's where I am currently. The yarn that I'm using is, of course, my Hand-Dyed Yarns, Woolen Vine yarns, on my Smitten DK base, which is a lovely, luscious blend of merino, nylon, cashmere. It's DK weight, as the name suggests, and I'm using two different colorways. The first one up here is my Rochester colorway, which is a really nice, warm shaded, I want to say sable brown with like peach undertones, and then opal, which, as the name suggests, just, you know, a really subtle rainbowy colorway with, you know, just like pops of red speckles in there, red and brown and rust speckles, I would say. I will have this color combo in the shop this weekend, along with a couple of other shades on my Smitten DK base. This week is the last week to get my Smitten DK base, because I am going to be switching over, bringing another base into rotation. I do that every so often, so I'll, you know, dye two bases for a couple of weeks and then switch over to two different bases that I dye. So anyway, FYI, if you are at all interested, you can sign up for my shop newsletter, which I send out every week. I send it out every Friday, so you know what to expect in each update. I will leave a link to the sign up down below in the description box, along with everything else that I mentioned in this episode. So yeah, again, just a really beautiful shawl. Cannot wait for it to come off the needles, and it's just going to be so nice, warm and cozy, just in time for spring, because it's almost spring here in New York, guys. Yeah, and in case you're curious, because I know some of you are, I am using the needle size suggested. I'm using some ChiaoGoo's. Let me see, US size 8, 5 millimeter 5.0 millimeter needles. While this is a really lovely pattern, there's, you know, it's very well written, everything's charted, written out beautifully, you know, the pattern is very nicely formatted. There were a couple of hiccups. I ran into a couple of walls where I found myself having to rip back several rows occasionally, only because when you're knitting brioche, you fall into a rhythm, just kind of like knitting stockinette, where you can just go on autopilot, especially with a project like this. I found myself realizing, like, I totally forgot to increase at this one section. So I had to rip back a couple of rows because, you know, while, again, there are a couple of mistakes, especially in the lace section over here, which, you know, you have to be really looking. It's kind of like, you know, those find the hidden objects, where's Waldo situation. So you have to look really close to find the mistake. But when it comes to like the increases down the center spine, they're a little bit more prominent. So I did rip back. And the other instances where I realized I had to rip back was when I was knitting the brioche and, you know, maybe stopped mid-row, put my project down and picked it back up again. I ended up knitting in the opposite direction, because if you're familiar with brioche, with two-color brioche per se, you are knitting one row with one color, sliding your stitches all the way back and knitting the same row with a different color. So if you don't remember, like if you stop mid-row and you don't remember which direction you're going, you can flip your work around and accidentally knit in the opposite direction. So hit a couple of roadblocks with that. I was very tempted to put this in a timeout, but I persevered. I sucked it up, ripped it off like a Band-Aid, and you know, here we are. We almost have a finished shawl, and I love it. I really, really love it. So yay. Vogue Knitting Live weekend. I did not go to Vogue Knitting Live. Instead, I don't know, once you move out to the suburbs, guys, you never want to go into the city unless you have to. I've become that person. Like anytime Dennis is like, you want to go to dinner in the city? I'm just like, no, it's okay. Let's go to dinner locally. Who knew? I've turned into my mother. But anyway, so instead of going to Vogue Knitting Live, me and a couple of friends, we hopped in a car and we went to pick up every stitch. And yeah, it was a lovely day. We just hung out, we knit, we chatted. It was great. And of course, when you go to a yarn shop, you end up treating yourself to some yarn. And that's exactly what I did because yarn. Right behind me here is one of the skeins that I purchased. So this is a new to, this is by one of my favorite yarn companies. It's the Fiber Co. Love any yarn that they put out. And this is their And Make Aran, One Stitch at a Time. It's an interesting name for yarn, but here she is. Of course, it's mauve. So the colorway is called Blush, and here's a label in case. And yeah, it's a really, really lovely blend of alpaca and wool. It's a 50-50 blend, if you will, 2-ply, and as the name suggests, it's Aran. So brought 2 skeins home with me, and then the other one that I purchased was this one. I have no idea what I'm gonna make with this, but it was so pretty, it followed me home. So here's Icho Sensei. It's mohair. Let me see. Yeah, it's 60% mohair, 40% silk, 262 yards of wonderful purple glorious fluff that is gonna hop into some project at some point, but could not resist. It's so pretty. So that's another one. And then the other skein that I picked up was the ball band's not on it because I'm going to talk about the next project that I cast on. This is by Lang Yarns. It's another mohair blend it's black with a subtle hint of stellina in there. And especially like holding it together with this, I was very tempted to put these 2 yarns together in something, but at the same time, when I saw it next to this yarn, I was just like, oh my goodness, how cool would it be to just marl these 2 yarns together? And the first project that came to mind was the Oslo hat by Petite Knit. And I knit this hat last year out of just plain black yarn. I tacked a pom-pom on it. I wear this thing to death. Love wearing this hat. So much so that I want to knit it twice. So that's exactly what I did. So I cast on another one, and this is basically just a head sock for me. The Oslo hat is very, very simple. You're just knitting stockinette in the round for, I don't know how many inches, and then, anyway, it's a process, it's delightful, and I'm here for it. So anyway, look how cool this is, guys. The sparkle is so subtle, but that's okay. I just really love how the black and the mauve are marling together. Yeah, so I'm gonna have a new hat pretty soon. And no hat is complete without a pom-pom. So yeah, this situation is gonna happen, and I'm very, very excited about it. So here, let me see. Yeah. Oh, love it. Love it so much. Put this little tribble back in there. How's my microphone situation hanging out? Okay, we're good, we're gold. And as for needle size, I, of course, did not swatch. Not swatching, just trusting the process because I have my unscientific method of not swatching. I personally just use intuition and good judgment. And knock on wood, it works out for the most part. If it doesn't, once in a blue moon, it's okay. But For the most part, it generally works out. So, you know, fingers crossed this will as well. So anyway, the needle size that I am using is a US size 4. 3.5 millimeter in case you're curious. The one thing that I do want to talk about is that when I initially cast this on, I was using metal needles. However, I found that the fiber content and the metal weren't really vibing or gelling together. I felt like I was struggling when I was knitting it. So usually when that happens, I swap out whatever material needle I'm using for a different one. So I switched from metal to bamboo, and guys, it's going. It's like butter now. So I'm not like struggling anymore. It's just easy breezy. So there's a little tip for you. If you are new to knitting and you find that you're struggling with your knitting, try switching up your tools, because that could be the culprit and be throwing a wrench in your wheel, if that makes any sense. So yeah, tip of the day. Yeah, so that's my second Oslo hat that I'm working on. She has two versions. She has the mohair edition and the regular edition. This is, I think, the original edition. So anyway, links all down below for your clicking pleasure. So yes, as far as crochet content goes, my Battenberg blanket. Guys, last week I talked about my Battenberg blanket, how, you know, I was kind of bummed that I could not find any more skeins of Bergère de France Gumi 50 in the beige colorway. My goodness, you guys, a handful of viewers left comments down below saying that they actually had some of the beige Bergère de France Gumi 50 in their stash. They purchased it a while ago, they had no intention of using it, and they so generously offered to send me their skeins. Thank you so much, guys. You were truly generous. And I took a few of you up on your offer, of course, offering to pay for shipping and the skeins themselves, and I'm happy to report one of the skeins arrived, so yay! Thank you so much. You know who you are. Mwah. You're the best. And I am just so excited to add this to my Battenberg blanket. So yay, mischief managed. I can have a bigger Battenberg blanket now. Very, very excited about that. Again, this is probably, this crochet project is probably gonna take me a while to finish because I work on it in spurts. It's a marathon, not a race, guys, when it comes to these projects. Very excited that I get to make a slightly bigger blanket now, so yay! Okay, all right, so moving along, I've got some quilting. I'm looking down at the floor. I have like yarn everywhere. It's a mess, guys. This situation is always a mess. At the end of every recording, there's a giant pile of yarn, and it's a whole to-do. It's a whole to-do, but I love it. Doing it. Okay, so moving more yarn on the floor as, oh, I can pop you back in here. Back in your hidey hole. Okay. Okay, you too, you go back in there. Okay, quilting. Last time I chatted with you, I had finished a quilt top for my aunt. I still have to get around to quilting that top, but I'm not worried about it because I don't have plans to meet up with my aunt in the near future, so I've still got time to work on it. So, let me get the book. I teased that I was going to start working on a quilt from Kay Fassett's Quilts in Ireland. This is a book that I picked up on sale at Joann Fabrics, got it for a steal, basically, and, you know, flipping through it, I fell in love with this quilt right here. This is the Shadow Play quilt. Whoop. So there you go. And as soon as I saw it, I was just like, I totally want to make this quilt. And yeah, if you've been following this channel for some time, you might think that, you know, Kay Fassett is a little bit out of my comfort zone, is not really my aesthetic, and you would be right. You are very, very right. However, you know, flipping through this book, I just felt very inspired. I really appreciate how he plays with color, how he uses it, and I think for me, as someone obviously who just gravitates towards muted neutrals and mauve and just dark moody shades, this was just kind of a way for me to break out of that comfort zone, if you will, and just kind of experiment and play and broaden my horizons, if you will. So I took it upon myself as a challenge because I love a challenge, guys. I can't resist. So, you know, I wanted to have fun. I wanted to deviate from the normal, from the usual, and just have a little fun with color. And that's exactly what I did. So the goal was to kind of replicate this quilt exactly. However, you know, over here on the side, they do mention all the all the fabrics, the colorways that go into this quilt in particular. And I was able to find a shop online that had most of these fabrics, but not all of them. And I really wanted to avoid having to shop from multiple shops at the same time. So this one store had a really nice inventory of K-Facet fabrics. So I just picked and chose, you know, the ones that were obviously in here, and then ones that I thought were comparable to that. So I ordered those fabrics and tried to replicate this project as best that I could. And my gosh, guys, my gosh, we have a finished quilt top. So this came together very, very quickly. Again, more half square triangles. I have to say that these were so much more enjoyable to piece together because a lot of the times, if you are familiar with quilting, whenever you have to make a lot of half square triangles, a pattern will give you a, you know, kind of like a short, quote unquote, shortcut method of making half square triangles where you put two big squares of fabric together, right sides together, sew around the border, sew crisscross, and then cut them applesauce. Anyway, you can make more than one half square triangle at a time doing that type of method. Again, there's multiple ways to do it, but when you do that, you end up having to true up all these edges. And anyway, I find that to be a headache for some reason. It's not my jam. But this one, for this pattern, Kaffe has you cut out each individual square, slice them diagonally down the center, and sew them back together with a contrasting triangle, and you have a half square triangle, and Bob's your uncle. So, you know, it seems like a lot of work, but for me, it makes the process just go by a lot more quickly. And I feel like these half square triangles are a lot more accurate. So anyway, and there's no truing up. Unlike the last quilt that I made, there was no truing up at all. So I will stand so you can see this project. And as usual, too big to fit on the screen, but here we are. I'll do my best to show you most of the squares. So here we go. And guys, this was so much fun to put together. I mean, granted, the colors are really not, you know, again, my aesthetic, it's a little too wacky, but again, I just really enjoyed playing with all the colors, and especially when it came to creating different half square triangles that were in the original pattern, I just found myself picking and choosing combinations that I actually liked. So let me see, where's one? Let me see. So yeah, this square down here is pretty fun, and then this one I really like, and then these corner edges, this one, I love the combination of this, like this pink and black spot with this peach and hot pink polka dot situation happening. Yeah, for these outer border triangles, there was a little more precision cutting involved, so it wasn't just making half square triangles. You had to cut separate sized triangles for this, but not a big deal. It was a little time consuming and got a little tedious, but I made it happen. Again, you just pop on an audiobook and, you know, have at it. So yeah, here's the other side, so you can see some more triangles. Yeah, this was so fun. And this quilt is a little bit smaller than the quilt I made for my aunt. That one is just huge, huge. But it's still sizable. It's still very sizable. I'll pop the dimensions here in the down bar so you know you can get an idea of how big it is. But it came together very, very, very quickly. So yes, this quilt is definitely at the top of my to be quilted queue, along with a lot of other quilt tops that I seem to be churning out like nobody's business. Guys, it's an addiction. I love quilting so much. I can't get enough of it. So yeah, I've got to figure out that situation of like, because the pile, it keeps growing. And speaking of which, I did start 2 new quilts, which I can't talk about just yet because they are gifts, and I don't know if the recipient watches this channel. So I'm going to hold off on talking about those quilts for now, but I will say, if you are a member of this YouTube channel, you can get a sneak peek behind the scenes of those quilts and what I've been working on. Moving along, quilting. So what else do I want to talk about? Okay, we've got the shadow play quilt that is done. I've got my top secret quilts that are currently in progress, and our Epic Make-Along. The Epic Make-Along, or Epic Mall, is a year-long make-along where we are all coming together to make something epic. And whatever your craft is, if you are into knitting, crochet, quilting, sewing, weaving, bobbin weaving, pottery, art, whatever your craft is, you are very welcome to join. And when I say epic, it is open to interpretation. I mean, by the end of this make-along, it's a year-long make-along, by the way, so you have until January 1st, 2025 to complete whatever you're working on. If by the end of that you come out the other side feeling proud of yourself, proud of what you've made, and feel like it was epic to yourself, then it totally counts. So be it a project that has been languishing for quite some time, a new to you technique that you're trying to learn, I have to pull it out of hibernation and finish it, but my fruit garden blanket, that is one of the projects that I plan on finishing for this make-along, and it is indeed epic. I'm fairly new to crochet, and I just dove right into this. It's a Janie Crowfoot pattern, and her patterns are absolutely epic. I mean, sometimes I'm just like, what did I sign myself up for? So anyway, that is on the list of projects for me to finish. Another project that I am working on for this make-along is the Tula Nova, which is a English paper piece pattern by Tula Pink. She's a really awesome, really fun fabric designer. She creates all these really, well, let me show you because you will see for yourself. This is where I am with the project. And yeah, it kind of stalled. Since I last showed this on the channel, I have not made any progress on it. I kind of stalled because I didn't run out of fabric, but I'm stumped as to where to take what direction color-wise to take this pattern. And I'm thinking, you know, while the Tula Pink fabric that I have currently in stash isn't really calling out to me, I do have quite a lot of K-Facet fabric left over from my shadow play. Guys, I went insane. I dare I say I treated myself to some K-Facet fabric when I shopped for this quilt project, the shadow play. I mean, I've got a lot. While K-Facet and Tula Pink have arguably different aesthetics, I mean, K-Facet, he's more bold, you know, flower prints, polka dot, abstract shapes and stuff, where Tula Pink is more, you know, animals and whimsical prints and everything. Where they meet on the Venn diagram is color. So they are of the colorful ilk, if you will. So I think I'm going to pop into this cave stash that I have left over, and I mean, guys, I love it. I love it so much. Here's a really cool print that I am excited to use because it's all just like seashells and stuff. Anyway, so I'm thinking about dipping into this little stash here and working it into my Tula Nova EPP quilt. So yeah, that's gonna happen. So anyway, really, really excited to pick this back up again. Again, we've got a whole year. It's a marathon, not a sprint, my friends, as I say. So, okay, I think that's all I have to share with you this week, guys. If you've made it this far, thank you so very much for hanging out with me. If you're new here and you haven't already, feel free to like and subscribe down below. I'm putting out videos for your viewing pleasure every other week. Again, if you would like more from me, consider becoming a member. You can do that by clicking the join button down below this video or on the main homepage of this channel. And for a monthly fancy schmancy cup of coffee, you can enjoy some bonus content from yours truly. Wow, I got that memorized. Got it down, guys. Trying to think. Yeah. All right. Have a wonderful weekend. Happy making, and I will see you on the next video. Bye.